Shop. With me is Chris. Say hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
And with us today is a returning guest, Derek Barton. Say hi to everyone, Derek.
Hi everyone, Derek.
Oh, don't fall for the Chris thing. So, Chris, I was going to ask you. I know we talk about the subject matter before we start the video and stuff like that, but today I want to ask you, what issues have you had with your latest tools, like the Cola Race pencils?
It's not the Cola Race pencils. It's the Blackwing, the blue Blackwing. Because I've been Derek was nice enough to gift me several Blackwings, including a blue one, so I could try doing my blue line with it. And I've been of all the Blackwings, this is my least favorite. It's the only one I would say actually. I'm still doing my comic with it. I'm drawing it. I'm doing the latest issue of Blue Orchid. I'm using this, but it's I just find it's very soft and it's very gravelly. Like it just doesn't give you a clean line like the regular pencils do. I tend to instead go with Cola Race, which tends to be a lot smoother and a lot harder and doesn't grind down as much.
Which is funny because I remember years ago when I used to buy regular blue pencils, I used to think Cola Race was too light out of all of them.
Yeah, if you use the non-photo one, it's very light. Like it's extremely light. But I actually use what's this one? It's indigo blue.
No, even they did have a non-photo blue at that time or non-print, I think. They had
Yeah,
a
it's and
they had
that
a
one's
Very
purple
super
light.
and
light.
yeah, purple and a blue version. And I remember just going, "Wow, how do people draw with this thing?"
No, I love the indigo blue. What I tend to do is I use a really light blue. So like in this case, I'm using the Blackwing, the sort of lighter blue one. I do that for my really basic sort of just etching in scribbles, and then I go a little bit more detailed with the darker one. That's tends to be how I draw anyway. And then I don't go regular pencil at all. I just go straight from this to ink. Just because I find that if I go with pencil, I tend to like refine it too much, and then when I get to my inks, it's
I'm
just this boring.
I'm the same way, yeah.
So these are the two. Like I tend to use a non-photo um, Cola Race, but I decided to try the Blackwing out for this issue, and it's not horrible. It's not unusable by any stretch of the imagination, but I just find I'm constantly sharpening it, and it's okay for my roughs because I don't mind having a slight grittiness. Like it doesn't bother me that much. But if I was to try and do the amount of detail I do with this, I would be going bananas.
Oh, that's definitely fair. Um, Trying to remember because I don't do a lot of the figure stuff with the blue black wings. That one I seem to have done like we'll do my panel borders or my guides for when I'm doing a TikTok Tom book because Chetan has specific guides that some of my boards don't always have, so I have to put that part in manually unless I'm doing intending to do a full blade splash page.
Yeah.
But I tend to go back and forth. Sometimes I'll use the blue for that kind of stuff or technical drawings. I have a red pencil as well. Sometimes I'll rough in with figure drawings and then go with my graphite. Been a couple times I've actually done that. There's been a few of my TikToktober drawings I've done in reverse. I'll actually rough out with the graphite, like with the more traditional pencil, kind of erase away all the scratches and whatever like refined lines I have will kind of stay, but I'll go in with like the red or blue pencil in that stage because it's
No.
easier for me to erase. It's easier for me to erase the pencil like construction and then render with the colored pencils because I find cool erase, even though you can erase them. I've always found it's a little more difficult to erase the color pencils than say your traditional graphite.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I've
I would say
noticed,
I would agree with that, but you can lighten them enough that when you're scanning or, well, in my case, I photograph them, you can generally blow away the whatever remnants is left. Like if you look at the original, a lot of my original art, you'll still see blue on there, but by the time I've scanned it and I've upped the contrast a little bit, and then I've also uh, gone black and white. By that point, it wipes out almost any of the blue. The light blue, sometimes I don't even have to erase. Sometimes you can just
Yeah, when you
scan it.
photograph it, it just doesn't show up. I was
Just
surprised. I
sends
think
non photo.
I think Chris and I were talking about this. I was surprised to see. I know Derek does it a lot, where people are using red and red pencils to do their pencil work, then ink over it. And I guess now with modern technology and stuff like that, you could, like you said, Chris, you could take away all that colors.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to use red. Like I use red pencils as well, but I also use this hot pink color, and only because I think it was might have been when I was working at Curry's. They could never sell the hot pink coal erases, and so they sold them
Oh,
to me for like 10 cents each. So I was like, I bought like
nice.
a huge box. But what I tend to
Nice.
use them, yeah, exactly. What I tend to use them for is fixing problems. So if I'll do my stuff in blue, and say I'm maybe about to ink, and I'm looking at a hand that isn't right or a figure that I don't like, and so what I'll tend to do is I'll go over it in red, and so because it comes up over the blue, and so it'll just be sort of like my fixing pencil, like my if I've made a mistake, or if I want to change something, or if I want something that I want my brain to sort of see a little bit better, I'll do it in the red,
That's a
and
good
that'll
idea.
yeah, animation, it's a common thing. So often animators will do their stuff in blue, and then if there's something that maybe they want to highlight, or a particular piece of animation or something, they'll do it in a different color, and that will sort of fix it.
Okay.
That's it. That's interesting. I remember like going back to the art store days, and even art school. I remember I bought tons of blue pencils, and even the purple ones, the non-print purple ones.
Yeah.
And you tried every one of them, and you're going. And I think the common thing what Chris just ran into, I think all of us ran into, either the line work is too light or the lead is too soft. It keeps breaking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Verithin was another brand that came up that had a lot of um, sort of nice colored ones, but the problem is they
Yeah,
didn't erase almost at all. Like,
yes. They had more of a
yeah,
waxy feel, if I remember.
I think I might even have like a very thin here too, and I like for correct, not necessarily for correction. Sometimes I'll draw on mixed media. This was my TikToktober yesterday, just Wolverine on a tan-toned tile, trying to use up whatever I have of this left. And I'll use like say a white, like the white very thin pencil to maybe get a little bit of detail in the eyes
yeah.
where it's not like overwhelming whiteout. Like if I need something to brighten up the tan tone, but I don't want it like sticking out like I'd use like a pot, like an acrylic pen or like a whiteout pen. Like there's a middle. I'm weird.
No, it's basically if you want, it almost lightens up the color behind it, because generally with inks and paints, if you use something like a Verithin white, it doesn't eliminate the color, but if you go over a black with a Verithin, sometimes you get a gray as opposed to like pure white.
Oh, like
And so you
Right.
get
transparency.
more of a subtle light
Yeah.
than like if you use paint, it's just pure white. So I do that a lot too. Like when I do color pieces,
Okay.
I'll do the same thing. And I even find Prismacolors will do the same thing if you do them over paint. So if you have like
Right.
a blue paint, and then you put a white Prismacolor pencil crayon, if you do it lightly, you'll get a light blue as opposed to um, you know pure white, which you know it, pure white can sometimes make things look plasticky, whereas a nice white tone sort of gives it like there's light shining off of it, but there's still the color of the base thing coming through as well. So
Hmm.
it's a totally legitimate and totally you know acceptable way of doing that for sure.
So,
Oh, nice.
question for you
Okay.
guys then. Um, I know you and Derek use traditional, pencils like this. Have you guys used for blue or red or whatever, mechanical pencils?
Yes.
I
I
have
can't find any of mine at the moment because my daughter stole my last one.
Because
But
because when I see your postings, I always see you guys using traditional pencils. That's why I just
yeah
wondered if, yeah.
I own 2 millimeter blues, and I own the point fives. The point fives break if you
They
put
break like
any
crazy.
kind of
Yeah.
weight on it at all, like just even slight as a snap, 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 snap. So I think I had my original tube of 0.5s, and I probably used like two of the leads, and then just got frustrated and was like, never
The good
again.
one, I've gone through that. The good one is the point 0.9. The point 0.9
Yeah.
one. Now,
Mm.
here's the thing. The point 0.9 one is a thicker lead, but there's I think Pentel makes one. I do have the blue non-photo blue pen. It's not non-photo blue, it's light blue. It does work,
Mhm.
but it's too soft, even in the point 0.9. And I think Stedler makes it. Stedler ones are good.
Okay. Yeah. I have the
Yeah.
2 millimeter one that I've used on occasion, but again, I'll be honest, my 2 millimeter pencil, I think, I bought that for school. I used it for like a year, and now I don't think I pulled out my 2 millimeter.
See,
I find just the idea of sharpening this is the same amount of work as doing a 2 millimeter pencil. So why would I waste my time?
yeah, that's it. Yeah. But which for you guys, what do you prefer? The mechanical pencil or standard pencil?
Standard
Oh, it
generally tends.
yeah. There's some advantages I found early on, like in my 20s. I was a security guard, but I always used to bring a sketch pad and pencils with me, and I did find the mechanicals. These are a 7 millimeter, but I used to bring mechanical pencils because it was just a little less mess in the off, like in
That's it.
whatever
Yeah.
office I happened to be working in. But as I've gotten older, like there's certain graphites that you can't get um, in that. Like I've grown accustomed to the like Blackwing graphites, and they don't make just the graphites that you can put in a mechanical pencil. So I've gotten a little spoiled that way.
So
Yeah.
And I
Blackwing,
also,
Blackwing just does traditional pencils.
yeah, just complete traditional pencils. And it's just gotten to be a preference just to use the standard pencil. So I found why I stopped using 2 millimeter pencils is I had a habit of breaking them. Like all of a sudden one day I'd feed through lead and all of a sudden the clicker wouldn't click and working with a general heavy hand anyway, sometimes I'll like break. I've gotten tried to get better over the years at controlling my heavy hand. Found out that my little one has the same heavy hand problem. We just saw one of her art projects. She's working on 3-point perspective, and she did a brilliant piece on black paper, but you can still kind of see her guidelines because she was just a little too heavy-handed. So she inherited my heavy-handed gene. Poor kid.
I always call that the etching gene because you etch into your paper. You don't draw.
Yes. So,
So
When she wakes up, I'll tell her that.
let's
yeah.
do a little promotion sponsor. What is Blackwing?
Blackwing is a pencil company that they were around a lot in the 1900s. I believe they closed up shop. I don't have a formal brochure, so I'm guessing some of the timelines here. They closed down at the end of the 20th century, and then sometime like in the later 2000s, like later like 2010s, I first found out about them at the local Curry's. Everyone was excited that we got these new pencils. They actually like taped a few sample pencils to the sketchbooks I normally buy. So it's like, oh, get this sketchbook, get a free. I've never heard of. And that's what the sales associates at that one were like very helpful. Like, here, try some. Gave me scratch paper and I just sketched with a bunch and like, oh, that's and just the graphite ones like your traditional pencils and I think they had the soft, the medium, and firm.
See, that makes sense because when I'm speaking for myself and Chris worked at the same time as I did, I do not recall the name Blackwing at all during our
No.
store days.
So they might have had that downward fall before your time,
Yeah, I think
just
so.
because
Yes.
just because I don't have quite the encyclopedic knowledge of the fall and resurrection. I just became aware of them about about 7 years ago. It was I remember just picking up some supplies. I was getting ready for a show I was doing in Aurelia that weekend, and pick up some pencils, pick up some paper, maybe get
I
ready
think
to put
that's the
like
first time I've heard of Blackwing was when I when I saw your postings and going, these are weird shaped pencils.
Hmm.
I heard about
Um,
Blackwing first from actually a guy who was a blogger who I followed, who actually isn't really much of an artist. He's actually a writer, and he likes writing with them. But he wrote with them before they got re-released, and he would actually pay huge exorbitant amount of monies for the old ones because you used to be able to on
Really?
eBay buy like the ones from like 100-year-old pencil type thing,
Oh,
and
wow.
but they would sell for like hundreds of dollars. But the people
oh
that
yeah.
loved them were like, "This is the greatest pencil ever made. Why don't they make them anymore?" And then I think enough of these people that were like, once I think somebody saw that people were willing to spend hundreds of dollars for them on eBay, I think somebody sort of rebooted the company and started them back. Because I remember he would talk about spending like
Wow. Oh,
$100 on a pencil, and then eventually I discovered Blackwing because he said, "Oh, they're re-releasing them," and he sort of did a test to see if they were still as good. And he said they found them still as good, but they were still. This was early on when they first came out. They were very limited still, and he was still spending like $30 a pencil
oh,
when they first came
wow.
out,
Wow.
when they first were re-released. But now they're much broader, so I think the price has gone down significantly. But yeah, they were popular enough that there was like collectors and
Okay,
writers
so
and artists who would
so
buy them.
just for if anyone from Blackwing's watching and I want to ask this question so they could send Chris and Derek promotional material, are they worth it?
I'll let you go first, Derek.
Um, I'm not going to say they're like a magic pencil that beats them. I do like that they are smooth. I like again just kind of built a preference. I do like that instead of 18 or 20 different pencils ranging from 9H to 9B, they've kind of simplified it to normally four, like your extra firm,
That's great. Yeah.
your like your balance. Like I believe I'm gonna say they range from kind of like that 2H to 4 5B. And for a like for comic people, I don't need anything firmer, like more firm than the 2H, and I don't need anything softer than a 4 or 5B. Even if I'm doing non-comic stuff, I find that I don't need like having just four types that can kind of cover a couple different graphite shades. Just convenient. And I
Yeah,
do like and I do like the idea of the like replaceable eraser. Like if I run down an eraser and I saw plenty of pencil, I can actually pull this.
Yeah,
I'll
that's a
get one I
great
can pull
idea.
out. Yeah, you can. That's yeah, you can just pull out the eraser and replace it.
yeah.
Like
Because
I find that kind of neat.
that's a good.
I'll also say that the erasure quality is really good.
Oh, nice.
Hmm.
Nice.
So, as far as my opinion of the Blackwing, I will say that it's probably one of the best pencils I've ever used, but I don't know if it's worth the price yet. I'll be honest,
Yes.
and I mean, I've even mentioned this just earlier this podcast. I said that I tend to use mostly just blues, and I tend to use graphite for doing sketches and stuff like that, and I don't tend to use graphite as much. So for me, the idea of like spending a lot of money on graphite is kind of like, and I think we've mentioned this on this podcast where sometimes I'll go to the dollar store and buy a handful of pencils. That'll
These
do
are
fine
dol
for just
these are dollar store ones. Or
exactly.
Yep.
I don't want to sound cheap, but my pencils are mostly dollar store or when they have back to school sale pencils.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, most of the artists I like follow that still do traditional work, it's always your traditional like number two pencil get in
Yeah.
bulk at like a Staples or a dollar store, and there's nothing, absolutely
See,
nothing wrong with that.
now here's my thing. Reason I buy the dollar store ones and the cheap ones is I'm one of those people that I grind the tip to a sharp point. So I'm using up the pencil, and I do have a hard hand where I'm breaking the lead also. So for me, I don't, if the pencils, 12 packs costing me $1. I know I shouldn't be saying this, but it's, I don't care if I damage it that much. I'll play around with it, use it, you know, break the lead, sharpen it, and stuff like that. Where if I had a Blackwing one, oh, I'd be doing so much light work, making sure everything's, on the other hand, it could make me a better artist. I don't know, could make, spend more time
I'll
on it.
I'll say one thing though about cheap pencils that drives me bananas. And I just actually I had a blue pencil that was a cheap one, and I wanted to rip my hair out. And that is if you drop that pencil on the floor and sharpen it, pops out, pops
Yes,
out. Like the leads
you're right.
inside break all the time. Whereas a
Yes,
high
that
quality
Yep.
pencil, if you drop it on the floor, it'll be fine.
yes,
Like so.
that's a good, yeah. Or
And
if you
that
put your
is,
books on top of it, yeah, in the halfway point you see a crack.
Yeah.
yep.
So I will
I
say
will,
that I mean I traveled with the Black Wings because I brought them from Canada and now I'm in Tunisia, and all of them have been fine. Like I have not had a single sort of snapped leads in between. They went through luggage, they went through airport
No,
stuff, they went through all that stuff, and they're absolutely fine. Whereas, as I
that's an
said,
amazing point you made.
I had another blue pencil that I was using before the Blackwing, and I sharpened. I think I got to about the eighth sharpen when the lead popped. I was like, my pencil was now it was brand new. It was this big by the time the lead would stay in, and I was like, well,
And,
this is just garbage
and
anyway.
I remember your point is great because I remember buying these type of pencils and sharpening going, why does the lead keep breaking? Why does the lead keep breaking? Then I realized, yes, I dropped it or threw something on top of it earlier. And
Yeah,
yeah, and it makes perfect sense.
and correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, but Blackwings come in like nice boxes, so when they're shipping them to you, they're
oh
not
yeah,
like
like no, like they like this is the actual like box that ends up on the shelf, like so. Um, and then when I get them shipped, they end up. Sorry, pardon my reach. Um, Not exactly this box. This is a Transformer box, but like they'll come in like when I was getting the subscription because again the pencils themselves are delicate, and they always threw in like a cool little thing that's not always a card. That whatever they threw in would kind of depend on the theme of the pencil. The last one I got before I canceled my subscription because I got to burn through a bunch of pencils to make room again. Um, was like a cooking or kitchen themed one, and what I got with that was like a pack of recipe cards. Or a couple years ago, I got a Beatles themed with a card of Beatle quotes.
So that
okay.
goes back to
Like
Chris's point where you know Blackwing is not made traditionally for artists, but made for everyone, like songwriters, cooks and stuff who
yeah,
want
and
to
I've gotten
write
a
and
few.
stuff.
Yeah,
And I guess in the old days and even now, a good quality pen or a pencil is a great tool to have.
It can be, it
yeah.
depends on the reason you want to use it. Like I said, for me, I like Derek gifted me, and I'll even post a picture here of the amazing collection he gave me of the pencils to try out. And it's been a joy trying them out and playing with them. But then I bought one in my life, one Blackwing in my life. I think I spent about $7 on it it was at a little boutique store that sells lots of fancy papers. So they probably raised the price more than it should have been.
Oh,
But it was
absolutely.
but I wanted to try one. Like I was just curious. I really wanted to try one. So it's like, you know what? This is my. You don't often see Blackwings just on their own in singles. You often see them in boxes most of the time, or at least in the circles I've been in. So I wanted to buy just one. So I just wanted to try it out. I was at the store, picked it up, and again, it was a joy to use. The ones other than the blue one that I'm not a big fan of, all the other ones have been great to use. But I don't always like again. If you compare even a Stadler pencil, I think it's only $2 now, two or $2 like for the nicer sort of Stadler drawing pencils that I tend to go with for
No, but on the other hand, here's where sometimes I will, I'll spend like on mechanical pencils or inking pencil, I'll spend the $7 on that. Where pencils I don't think too much on. Where I think where you guys are, think, on that where I think, bottom line is not to say the expensive tools are great, but you have to have the middle ground and find what you like. And sometimes it's worth spending that money to find that perfect pen or pencil, or even the
yeah,
paper.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I think with inking stuff, the one thing you were describing the difference between mechanical pencils and wood pencils. I almost think of the difference between mechanical pencils and wood pencils being similar to what you get between a brush pen and a fine liner. I
Yes,
just find
yes,
that the line with the mechanical pencil is much more dead
yes.
and not as nice, whereas with the sort of wood ones. And but even when you get to the more expensive pencils, it's almost like having a bit of a better brush when you're inking.
And here's one thing
So
I think,
like,
I'm not sure if I've seen Derek. I think Derek sometimes holds the pencil like this, and I've seen some artists hold the pencil sideways also to draw,
yeah,
where a mechanical pencil, you have to hold it this way. You can't
yeah,
Right.
you can't tilt it or anything like that. And and you could get nice effects and stuff like, and you're right. You could get nice feathery, if you call it feathery effects with a pencil.
yeah, yeah. And I find, like I said, with the black wings, it's almost like having a better inking brush. So as much as
Yes.
we're okay with cheap brushes, and we've talked about this in the past, where we even talked about it, with other artists who say like, oh, I just grab the brush that's closest to me. I think they call it the Simon Beasley technique, and but and that's fine sometimes, but every once in a while you'll get like a nice sable brush that's just in good condition, and you ink with it, and you're like, oh my God, I can get a thick or thin that really works well and really
Oh,
easily. A
personally,
cheaper brush would work, but so that's how I would compare sort of like a Stadler or a dollar store pencil to
no,
to
that makes
a
perfect sense
Blackwing.
because I haven't done that with pencils yet, but with that, but I have done that with the brushes.
Yeah,
And I have noticed that certain brushes, like, you could buy the $3 brush, like even a brush pen. And I bought ones I buy now are I think 9.99, and they're amazing.
yeah,
So sometimes it's worth it to spend the extra money to try. Best advice is, you know what? Buy Stedler, buy Color-Ace, buy Blackwing, buy Dixon pencils. Any of those, try them out and see which one
yeah,
works best for you. And
yeah,
again, it's not the price tag. It's test them out.
yeah.
Yeah, I found with the Blackwing now for those of us in Canadian or in Canada, we've got a few shops not within walking distance to me, but a place I order from in Toronto called Wonder Pens. Um, and they're pretty quick at shipping the pencils, but every once in a while you can even find like a starter pack like that'll just send you each of the four pencils, like your extra firm,
Oh, that's
balanced,
great.
and
Yeah.
like it's one of each, so you can like try one of each. Like personally, like when I started collecting the Blackwing pencils, I was always a fan of the firmer pencils, but my daughter was more of a fan of the balanced and the softer leads. So like whenever I had the subscription and the lead was balanced or soft, like, all right, little one, here's some. You take half, I take half. But yeah, between the two of us, like having a subscription, having that replenished 4 times a year, like no matter how much you draw, it's just start getting an unwieldy amount of
Yeah.
pencils. So now I'm just kind of gonna
Well,
whittle that down before I start ordering more.
that brings up a good question before we end this session. Now, you mentioned that one store. Where else do you get your pencils from?
Um, well, because I used the Blackwing again for a few years, I was getting a subscription from Blackwing itself. But the other two places I've bought from online from Wonder Pens because they're very quick with shipping. They always have like some extra stuff like postcards of their shop cats, like cute stuff like that that I like. Also get some decent inking nibs there, like the old school dipping nibs, which I ordered there. Another spot, and this kind of goes into Chris's point. There's a shop in Cambridge. I have in-laws that live in Cambridge, and they have a stationery shop. And I know I'm pronouncing this wrong. I'm sorry. Fidon Pens. And I was able to buy a couple of Black Wings separately
So
when I
Black
went.
Wings are available in the stores now still.
Yes, but the only problem buying them singularly is you run into the problem that Chris was illustrating earlier is by themselves. I'm trying to remember. I think I paid like $6 each, and like for a firm and for a soft, and the firm one was like yellow and black. It was called the Bruce
Okay,
Lee
so
theme.
you got me on a
Yeah.
quest now. I'm going to take my daughter and go to the art store and see if they have Blackwing pencils. And I'm gonna
Okay. I
buy a
know.
couple.
Look inside the glass cases sometimes.
Oh, really?
Like,
Yes.
Okay, okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I've been,
It's one of those ones you'd probably have to ask for behind the counter because crooks are why we can't have nice things out on display.
yeah, yeah. I think the only place I've ever seen Black Wings actually out was at the place where I bought my single one. That was at a very frou-frou neighborhood in Ottawa, in a very frou-frou shop, and it was right next to the cash registers where they were keeping an eye on them anyway.
Yes.
So
And that was the same with my experience at Biden Pens in Cambridge. It was like old school downtown Cambridge. They were in a cup closest to the cashier with the security camera, like in full focus.
So why don't we
They
do
don't
this
put that.
then? Let's put a link at the bottom, some of the stores where you could possibly buy Blackwing pencils. Um, and what you mentioned, you could order it online. Um, I guess, any last comments?
well, I have one comment to say, and that's if you have questions about Black Wings, ask Derek because we've actually been having a conversation, and I was asking him about the different pencils I had, and he had these great example illustrations about the different thick hardnesses and stuff like that. So if you have follow-up questions, Derek's is the
And
man
we'll
to
put
ask
his
for sure.
link, we'll put his link down here, all his social media links. Please ask him questions. Super nice guy. He'll answer all your questions.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on, Derek, talking about Blackwing pencils, and we'll talk more again later.
All right, thanks for having me again, guys.